Hi everyone, it's Vaishali from the CareGenna podcast, and here I am today with Hrishi, who is a CRMO at SproutsAI, mentor, and board of directors of the IIT Bay Area Association.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Vaishali, for inviting me to your podcast. I'm looking forward to having a wonderful chat with you.
Thank you for being here today. My first question is, what specific goals and aspirations drive the work that you engage in through AI?
Lots of aspirations. So, for the viewers, I am Chief Revenue and Marketing Officer at SproutsAI. SproutsAI is a generative AI agentic platform company. Current focus is on recruitment automation, where we are able to automate all of the recruiting process, starting from job description generation, sourcing, screening, etc., all the way to screening, and we are able to get candidates in few days instead of few months. So the journey, the goal, I never thought I would be. I mean, a few years ago there was no generative AI, so
Yeah.
cannot be my goal to work for a generative AI company. So my goal was to become a CXO of a company that is 1,000 employees and more. So that still is my goal. I haven't gotten there yet. So there are multiple tracks to go there. The current role is one of the paths to get to a CXO for a bigger company. And why do I want to become a CXO of a bigger company? Usually these people make a lot of money, but why do they make a lot of money? And that's not the only goal. People are paid because they deliver results. And how can you get to the results? The results are delivered when you are able to make quick decisions and put process in place and then amplify those processes. And usually for amplification of processes, you need a team, you need to work with others. So I want to be at that position where I'm not only making decisions, setting direction, creating process, but also have structure in place to amplify whatever is happening. And this is important in many ways, not just in your profession, and it's also important in how you want to create social impact. And I've seen most of these successful nonprofit organizations, they're led by VPs or some executives. And I want to do that because I have a social impact goal. I'm a LGBT person and I want to make life better for LGBT people. And so far I have done here and there. But when I look at some of these executives with their nonprofits creating huge impact, I want to do the same thing for the LGBT people. And for me to do that, I have to prepare myself as well. Be in a position where impact is easy. If you're an executive, it's easy to line up funding. It's easy to do a lot of different things. And that's what is going on, in the back of my mind.
Yeah, and I guess my next question that comes up is, as LGBTQ, or executive in this community, I guess how would you inspire like the LGBTQ community by, living life authentically and having these aspirations. And since the election results have recently came out and there's been a lot of I guess social dilemmas around it. What are your insights?
Well, that's a lot of different questions. Personally, one of these great leaders said that, don't just preach, do it, and then with your actions, show others what to do. And personally, that's what I have been trying to do back in the days when I was a fresh engineer. A lot of LGBT people were in the closet, and even after they live in the Bay Area, they didn't feel comfortable coming out to their families. They were financially independent. So I became uh, co-chair for Trikon, which is South Asian LGBT organization, and I was out and open. When Facebook came, I was openly uh, gay over there. So by being out and open and out there, I encouraged others to do the same. Eventually, when my career and everything was in the right place, like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I married my husband in my hometown. You know, a lot of people told me that, oh, you cannot marry in India, not publicly. You'll have to do it either in a big city or like behind the walls. But no, I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. It's my dream to marry my husband in the hometown that I grew up, just like all the other marriages. I don't want it to be grand wedding. It should be just a simple wedding, like an ordinary wedding. And I did it. Now, my goal was not to create a news, but eventually it became a news. It was on national television in India. I was interviewed by many, many different TV channels and radio channels, etc. But I think more than that publicity, it was all about breaking the mental barriers. A lot of people have some definition that you cannot do this
Yeah.
because society or some
Yeah.
other things. You just have to go and break those barriers, and that itself proves a lot of things to other people. So for the LGBT community, they saw the news, they say, oh, you can actually marry publicly. You know, the world is not collapsing around you, etc., etc. That's what I did, you know, lead by examples. And I mean, fortunately, a lot of LGBT couples in India are now openly getting married, and I'm thrilled that they are doing. Oh, we're going to do even a grander wedding, or whatever. There was a lesbian couple in Nagpur who kind of
Oh, yeah.
had an online version of their wedding
Yeah.
besides the actual. So I'm thrilled to see people taking the next step. Building up on top of that earlier, breaking the barriers, creating breaking new barriers.
Hmm.
So going forward, I want to do that in the startup community. I want to do that in the financing of startups. There are a lot of organizations that are already doing a lot of great work. There is Startout, there is Angels, etc. But I've been talking to a lot of activists or people who are deeply involved in this area, and there are still opportunities. And I'm learning about them, and eventually in a few years, I'm sure um, I'll break some mental barriers. I just don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's wonderful. Just like starting something new. It all starts with one person and then it goes on for generations. And I think like especially with your work, how achieving success by, the CXO role or whether it be through like climbing all the barriers, could you share like a deeply impactful story that inspired your involvement in this?
Right. So again, speaking of breaking barriers, right? There are always examples that you have to look that are similar, may not be the exactly same thing you want to do. For example, if I want to become a LGBT open executive, maybe there are not people from South Asian origin. Maybe there are South Asian executives who are not LGBT, but even for them, there was some sort of a journey. So you try to identify close enough people who have done it and then learn from that. Once you achieve there, you kind of constantly try to find close enough people, and then continue that journey, right? So for me, the first thing came when I was an engineer. Many people say, oh, you Indian people, you cannot do marketing, you don't know how to talk to customers, etc. So I saw how people transition to the marketing side.
Yeah.
And for people like me, it was an MBA. MBA from a good school was a ticket to get into the other side. Not many people are doing it, but there are enough people who have done it. So
Hmm.
that's one thing. A few years ago, when I was at Western Digital, I did not get an opportunity to get into an innovation role because I did not have a startup experience. Somebody else had a startup experience. It's like, yeah, you only have big corporate experience with no startup experience, blah, blah, blah. So that time I need to get a startup experience sometime. And eventually, after my Samsung role, I said, okay, enough of big company roles. I want to go and work for a startup, but the startups didn't want me because they don't trust people from big companies. So I was like, how have other people done it? So I poked around, I saw a bunch of people. So I realized one thing: there are some people who do it because they don't have any other option. You're laid off, you're, starting your own company is pretty much the only option. Luckily for me, that was not the case. But my transition happened by first enlisting myself as a mentor. So, what value do I bring to the startup? Well, I have been on the other side of the table when the startups deal with big companies. So when I was at Samsung, I was driving open innovation, working with many startups and identifying where we can marry their innovation and our products and go to market together. So I was on that side of the table, and startups would love to get insights into that side of the table, right?
Yeah.
So I became a mentor, started talking about it. I have a master class on this particular topic, and I have delivered, sessions on this at CMU, Plug and Play, etc. Right? And startups love it because this is something valuable that they don't have access to. So that is one area, and then there are other areas that I identified and started adding value to various startup founders. Soon I invested in a few, and then I got a chance to work on actual projects from some of these startups. Slowly but surely, I had enough about me doing some startup stuff on my LinkedIn, and that helped me eventually get a role in a startup. Of course, many things have to come together, but that was another story, um, that I mean backstory that led me here. There's another one. IIT Bombay organized a CXO event many years ago, and it was a simple session where we had invited 6 or 7 CXOs, and then people like me who are not CXO, we kind of went there to get some education from those CXOs. And it was fascinating, to learn that, what will get you so far. What had gotten me where I was my technical strength, and what I learned was it's not the technical strength that will take you further. It's your communication skills. It's your ability to communicate clearly. It's your ability to make decisions. So it was all soft skills driven, and it was an eye opener. And that was the first time I thought, wow, I should be a CXO. These soft skills I don't have right now. Maybe I have some of them, but it's just a skill. I can get it.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's still a goal. I am a CXO for a small company, but one of the paths I said one of the paths, right? So one of the paths here is, okay, I'm CXO for a small company. This company will grow and I will grow with it. Eventually ours will become 1,000 people company, and there you go. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. And I think, as you mentioned, communication, right? I think it's all driven by self-confidence. Like, especially, I mean, I'm an undergrad as well, but I'd say, like, public speaking and communication is what really drives, like, leadership, right? And how would you define, leader?
So communication and leadership, I'll talk more about that instead of defining what is a good leader. I think there are different kinds of leaders. There are servant leaders, there are more autocratic leader, and they are all successful in their own ways. It depends on how you look at it, right? For me, as I mentioned before, capacity of a leader is to drive results. Part of it happens through making decisions, part of it happens through setting up processes, and part of it happens through amplifying whatever you have done. To amplify what you have done, you cannot do it alone. You only have 24 hours, and same amount of time everybody gets. So you have to leverage others, and the way you leverage others is with clear communication and inspiring them. First of all, you have to be inspirational so that they feel that, okay, whatever your goal is, it's also their goal, or it's worth spending time and energy towards that goal. After inspiration, you have to tell them what to do, and even small mistakes in telling them what to do, leaving unclarity, etc., means they could go completely off and waste a lot of time and energy. That's not going to drive results. So clear communication is a very important part of driving results and being a leader.
Yeah, and I think especially with clear communication, there's also like being empathetic, like really understanding your employees' needs and also the audience's needs, right? I guess, your customers, right? Like if you don't understand what they want, like your product will be just sitting there, right? So,
Right, right.
uh,
That is understanding customers properly and translating those needs into what your employees can do with. Yeah, it's all communication. Any fail there could let you go off tangent and waste a lot of time and energy.
yeah. I guess, when reflecting on all of this, were there any like formidable challenges that you faced and how did you navigate through them?
Well, we already talked about a few. Like as when I was engineer, people told me it's difficult to go on a marketing side, and my strategy has always been: here is my goal. Who has been on that path before? 5 years ahead of me, 10 years ahead of me, maybe 20 years ahead of me. Connect with as many of these people as possible. Set up coffee meetings with them, learn from them. It's amazing how much you can learn just from these coffee meetings. You just have to be inquisitive. You just have to ask the right questions. And the question is really very simple. You just ask them, you got from point A to point B. What are the three things that helped you the most? That's one thing. You can also ask them, what are the three decisions you made that made a big impact and why you made those decisions? So, those are some of the questions that I have been repeatedly asking, and it opens the doors. It enables me to see this is what helped them, so how can it help me? That's the post processing you have to do later on. But yeah, I mean, I'm even doing that now when I'm trying to figure out how I can make an impact in the LGBT startup founder funding kind of area. I am connecting with a lot of people who are already doing a lot in this area and just asking them. Asking also where are the gaps they see, because maybe that's where I can do something, right? You don't want to you want to build on top of what is already there, and the gaps is where there's a potential place for you to do something where it's like a blue ocean.
Yeah, definitely. Just talking to people, finding the right mentor is a valuable asset to like, I guess, developing, your own innovative ideas. So I guess, like as you mentioned, finding gaps in the LGBTQ community, like, so I guess like kind of reflecting on current events, what would you say has been the biggest, I guess, area, and how is your work trying to solve it?
So one thing I would say is, do not listen to too many news. I've stopped listening to news many years ago. I did a program at Optimum Health Institute. This is a suburb of San Diego called Lemon Grove. It was all about physical detoxification, but it also, I mean, I went there because my parents were diagnosed pre-diabetic and I was concerned about their health and they would not go there alone. So I went there with them and I was just hoping, okay, fix our bodies where, my parents will get out of the pre-diabetic condition. And it helped a lot, besides improving not just their blood report but my blood report also. Each of us lost more than 12 pounds in just 2 weeks, etc., etc. An important element there was also mental detoxification, and it was there I learned that the mind cannot distinguish between the real threat and the perceived threat. And our news media is full of sensational material.
Yeah.
And as a marketing person, I know when I was analyst for electric vehicles, I cannot get enough attention if my headline is not sensitive, right? So I was encouraged to make it more sensitive, or it should be.
Yeah.
And that's what the news is. From my perspective, there is a lot of sensational news there. How much of it is something that is going to really impact you? That's TBD. But I don't want to spoil my mental health and lose focus on what I'm supposed to do. That's one thing. At a very high level, I don't really see much difference between the two parties.
Yeah.
Yes, when you look at the debate, it looks very different, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of like I guess like like statements that have come up due to like all the political events. So I think especially as you mentioned, mental and physical fitness is required for like attaining a calmness state of mind. And
And another thing is, I think no matter which political party, they listen to you when you have money, then everything
yeah,
else does not really matter. So I
that's
want to
true.
get to a state where they will listen to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just more about like just focusing on yourself. Like I'd say like, like America is a capitalistic country, so it's like, just
Yes.
it's about money in a way, but it's also about to keep yourself happy. Like it's as you mentioned, social media is just like they create news out of random things. So yeah, and then especially with the work that you're doing through Sprouts AI and as your mentorship in other AI companies, I guess what have you noticed that's been going on, especially in the tech industry?
In the tech industry, there are a few places where people are investing a lot, even in these bad times. Generative AI is definitely one of them, but the other is also climate tech. Whether there is whatever the administration is, the climate tech is not going away. That's a very good thing, right? And it's not going away because people have figured out how to make money in this area. Right?
Yeah.
Generative AI is the same thing. People hope this will be a big money maker, and there are two reasons. I was listening to Naveen Chadha recently, and he made very profound statements. He said that previous waves or breakthrough technologies, they had a 10x impact. Whether you take .com area or moving to the cloud area or whatever, they made next improvement in productivity, and that's what resulted into a lot of innovation. Blah blah blah. This time around, it's X, and that's because the generative AI and its capacity itself is a 10x productivity boost. On top of that, this is the first time that humans don't have to understand machine language. The machines are understanding human language, and that opens up innovation. So the innovation is not just limited to the computer scientists or engineers, broadens its scope to many, many more people, and that's another 10x productivity boost. We are at a time where there is a 100x productivity boost, possibility, and that's huge. Everybody should look into this and see how they can be a part of it.
Definitely. And I think, especially with I know I've attended like a few biotech conferences as well, and people have incorporated AI in such great like devices, which could really save lives more compared to, maybe like a decade ago. So I think especially just knowing a few key essentials of AI would just help anyone to like really understand the true essentials of tech. I'd say like another question is, with the layoffs that are going on, especially with through like engineers and other industries as well, how would you foresee the impact of AI in the industries?
Yeah, so whether it's 10x or x productivity boost, I think the same thing will happen that happened during the previous productivity boosts. Every time there is a productivity boost, there is a need for more people. Yes, in the short term, it may not look like that, but I think it will, at the end of the day, create more opportunities to kind of do more things. So I can give you an example that is close to me or what I'm working right now. So we automate recruitment, right? Does not mean recruitment is going away. AI or generative AI, this is just a productivity enhancement. It's not a replacement. It's very tough to replace a human. I mean, knowing this technology up and close, it still takes a lot of attention to get things right in very narrow particular areas, and those narrow areas will broaden eventually, but I think a human mind is amazing. So in recruitment, there are a lot of boring things, like for example, the biggest time loss is reading thousands of resume. Whether you have a job that has a lot of applicants, so let's say you have a software engineer job that has like 1,000 plus applications, it's easy to get 1,000 plus application in 2 days. Somebody has to read those resumes, right? For a human, when I read 15 resumes, my brain freezes. I cannot distinguish between, okay, was it this guy, this person? I can barely remember their names.
Hmm.
But somebody has to do it, right? And but there are other things you need to do. It's not just about screening resumes. It's about assessing soft skills for the person. It's about doing other things so that the person gets hired. Those things cannot be automated, but these boring portions can be automated. Let's say you have a job that is not getting too many applicants. Then you have to do sourcing. That means you have to go to LinkedIn, do some searches, and read thousands and thousands of profiles to find the candidate. So no matter what, reading thousands of resumes is not, in the current method. What we come and automate that. What does that do? That relieves the recruiters from boring work. So now they have more energy, they have more work-life balance, and they can focus on other things that was being neglected before, like connecting with people. Recruiters have been ghosting people, right?
Yeah.
They're ghosting not because they love to ghost. They're ghosting because they are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I can barely keep up with the pipeline, which is in the yes funnel, just to respond to people who are going to the next stage. I barely have time for that. So
Yeah.
I just don't have time for other things. Those are the things that we are automating. A simple reply saying, sorry, you are not considered. Those things can be automated. So in effect, what happens is now, because of this automation, you are able to hire candidates that are better matched. You are able to do it fast. When you are able to do it fast and the candidate is better matched, your productivity, the company gains in terms of growth, in terms of what they're able to deliver. That makes more money. That means the company grows, and now you need to hire more people. So it's all cycle. I think that's how, you cannot. It's not that you need less people, but it whatever people you have, you redefine their scope so they can do more things.
Yeah.
And if it can happen in a simple thing like hiring, it can happen in pretty much any role.
Definitely.
Let's say marketing people were expected to do 3 posts, but now because of automation, now they're expected to do 5 or 10 posts, or come up with better quality posts or more impactful posts. So that has impact on how the company gets customers, and that means the company will grow and they will hire more people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the layoffs and all, it may look like a doom and gloom, but if you're not embracing how AI can make you productive, then you will be in trouble for sure. But it's not too difficult to learn. I'm not asking you to learn large language models or some deep technical just learn how to use the tools that the generative AI is creating.
Yeah, and I think especially like, just going through, there's a lot of blogs and articles out there just talking about just, how AI's been like used in different industries, and especially there's like, it's about how you portray yourself as well, because as you mentioned, there's so many resumes out there. So I guess it's really about, what makes you distinguish yourself from the crowd. And I guess that could be applied from, starting from high school to college to maybe postgraduate and everything. It's like, and then career, like I'd say it's really just about you, right? It's not about like lying on your resume. It's really just like what you achieved, right? So, do you have any insights or advice for our audience who may be wanting to know how they can distinguish themselves?
I mean, that is a lot of introspection. And also, I would go back to talking to people who are already in the area. Because only by talking to people who are doing things in that area, you learn. I mean, that person does not have to be older than you. It could be younger than you or same age as you. But they are ahead in that segment than who you are. For example, I had 10 years of experience in engineering, but after MBA, I switched to marketing role. There were a lot of people who started in the marketing career, so they were ahead of me in the marketing game, right? So no matter what, you'll always find people who are ahead of you, and learning from them, it's like a snakes and ladders game,
Yeah.
It's a snakes and ladder game. When you talk to somebody who's ahead of you in the career, it's like you get a ladder, you jump ahead, and it's not like you're jumping 100 points ahead. You jump like 5 points here, 2 points there, etc.
Yeah.
And when you don't do that, the snake of experience bites you and brings you down. So you want to avoid snakes and catch more ladders. I mean, sometimes you cannot avoid snakes, but at least by talking to people, you can get more ladders and get ahead. Through those talks, you will get insight as to how you can differentiate, why you are different or what is unique. When you ask them about where do they see gaps, those gaps will open your eyes as to if you can do something there and differentiate.
Definitely. And I think, like as, living in the Bay Area especially, this is already like innovation hub in a way. It's like tech, there's biotech, there's like so much going on. And, especially since you're in marketing, like have you ever like I guess like for marketing, did you find any challenges when you were first coming into marketing? As you mentioned, communication and like kind of like leadership as a way, but also with marketing, it's more about really just like kind of like portraying yourself in a certain persona and like having this like charismatic a sense. So I would love to hear about that too.
Sure. So going back to my first marketing role, there were a lot of challenges. English was definitely one of the challenges. I had to write a lot of reports, and grammatically, I was never right. And that was always a point of conflict between me and my boss and his boss, etc., etc. Right? But in today, we have Grammarly, we have other AI tools I could have leveraged back then, and that would have been a non issue. But unfortunately, at that time, there was no AI to help me. Luckily, the person I was dating, he was good with English. So he kind of filled the gap there. But yeah, I mean, that is something I had to kind of just improve as much as I could. So that's one thing. Second is I was a market analyst, so I was supposed to be the expert, but I felt like I don't know anything. Everybody I was talking to knew more than me. But then, after talking to a few other analysts and their experiences, I knew how to deal with it. And this told me something profound, that you are an expert not because you know in depth about everything, but you are somebody who can connect the dots between these. So that's the kind of expertise you bring. And that was super helpful to kind of change my perspective there.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Naveen. Actually,
You guys
is
need
it
a little time?
possible? Yeah, can we
Yeah,
start
yeah.
at 12? Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Just ping me when you're ready.
Awesome. Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think especially just hearing like for especially as immigrants coming straight from India or other places, I'd say like especially coming to new areas, just really developing the skill of asking others and being vulnerable in a way that can you can associate yourself to like I guess like familiar yourself with the community. So do you have any insights on that as well?
Sorry, I didn't quite understand.
Like I guess like as immigrants just coming from India or other countries. So would you give any words of advice for them like as newcomers who may not be totally like who may not understand, yeah, like I guess the regulations here or like anything, especially just adjusting to the country.
Yeah, so I would talk about what my coach taught me. His name is Deep Sahani. He does career coaching, executive coaching around here. And he told me something profound. That is, if you are in America where they play baseball, you cannot go and play cricket. First, you have to be master at baseball and then bring your variation or learning from cricket. This is nothing different. Even in India, we do that. If you look at people who are training for classical music, they first get perfect at singing the raga or playing the raga the way it is supposed to be. And when you are a master, then you start coming up with your own unique style variations on top of that. So it's the same strategy as an immigrant. When you are in this land, you first learn the culture and the business culture, of this country. And that you can do only by connecting with people who know that. I'm not saying just connect with Americans who are born here, but many immigrants have embraced that culture, business culture. Talk to them when you are doing something, hash it out with them. You have a lot of mentors, hash it out. Then you will know what is okay, what is not okay, and that's how you learn. You'll never be 100%.
Yeah.
But once you are good enough or made it enough, then you bring your variation, not initially. Because when you try to do initially, people will just look at you as weird.
Yeah. And I think it's just like some stereotypes that come up for, I guess, being Desi in Bay Area or just in the US. It's like Desis from India act differently than Desis from the US. I mean, it's just like, I'd say, just removing the stereotypes and, just embracing, who you are.
There is nothing much you can do to change people's stereotypes. Stereotypes are there for a reason. Human mind is designed to work with stereotypes. That's what makes us empathetic. And the reason is, if I do not If my mind doesn't do stereotype, I wouldn't be able to understand you quickly. The moment I see you, okay, a girl from India, I come up with a lot of assumptions, and that enables me to connect with you much faster than kind of learning everything about you, right? Now, when you bring those stereotypes, not everything is correct
Yeah.
because it's a stereotype, right? Close enough, but not quite there. So there will be problems. Stereotypes has its advantages and it has its disadvantages, but it's not going away. That's how human mind thinks. When you look at an elephant, you expect it to behave in a certain way. You don't have to learn what if you know one elephant, you can pretty much transpose it to other elephants, right? But are they exactly the same? No. So, I mean, that's how humans work, right? That's how we are able to tell this is elephant and expect what an elephant would do. So, you just have to learn how to live with stereotypes. Typically, when you confront somebody who is non-Desi, or let's say not somebody from your gender, you kind of give them assurance that yes, this stereotype is right, but then it's your job to actively tell them, but here is where I'm different.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, it's very hard for them to figure that out. It takes a long time. So it's your job to point out the differences.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it was great, and thank you for being here today, and I'd love to stay in touch.
Absolutely. For people who want to connect, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, etc.
Awesome.
Look forward to staying in touch with you as well.
Definitely. Thank you.